Hello, we are going to talk about Word today, and I'm not sure who's here, but I certainly hope that many of you get to join me today to learn about Word's features. Let's start with doing some formatting. And to do that, we're going to use a document that was turned in to me by someone in my 795 group for his or her draft project. One of the things you'll see right away is that it doesn't have any footers. So there's nothing in the bottom part of this document to indicate whose document it is and what page we're on. So we're going to start there with creating a footer, two footers actually, one for the front matter and one for the rest of the report. So to do that, we're first going to make sure that we can separate out the front matter from the rest of the report. And so I'm starting with Introduction to the Challenge. That's how this report happens to read. And I'm going to insert a section break. So that's going to be really important to know that I've now separated these two parts of the document. Let's go back to the top of that document. It features a cover sheet, if you will, a table of contents, and the executive summary. So I want that footer to be unique from the rest of the paper. So I'm going to insert, I always do this part wrong. It could be view the header and footer. Okay. And I don't want a header, I want a footer, so first to the bottom. Okay. In this case, we would want the authors of the report and the title, this kind of thing. So let's just say Neighborhood Watch. That's this client with associated with this particular project, and it's Callahan and Berger. Okay. So that's the identifying part of the footer. Now I need a page number, so I'm going to insert a page number. And to do that, I want it on the right side. I do not want to show the number on the first page because that's the cover sheet. I'm going to format it. Front matter is always Roman numerals. So I'm going to select Roman numerals. Okay. Little ones. Okay. And hit OK. Now I have a footer for the front matter. Nothing on the cover sheet. Page 2 on the table of contents. Page 3 on the executive summary. But now I need a footer for the rest of the document. So I'm going to copy the part that continues from one section to the next. Okay. And I want to get rid of, same as previous. So let's close this first. Okay. So now I'm going to go here. And I don't want this page number for sure. Oops. Find an easier way to do this. I think I'm going to do this a different way so as not to confuse you. So let me start from scratch again. And that would be to remove, here we go. I think I see what I did wrong here. That section break. Okay, so now this has okay. The other thing that you want to see here in page layout or print layout, notice here that it says heading 1. I can't make this any bigger. So each time this team created a heading, it had a specific label associated with it. Heading 1, here is heading 2. Heading 1 and heading 2. Those are defaults that are built into Word, so that's going to be really important to put together. So we're going to copy this one, put it where I have challenge here. Oops, not that way. I'm going to select heading 1. Got to find it. In the long list of possibilities here. There we go. Had it. It's hard when you're working with someone else's paper and not your own. That is a real tough thing. This isn't my style sheet. So a style sheet is the way that you are able to create different looks in your paper. So I have the light on this. It's in alphabetical order, as you can see. Yep, here we go. Heading 1, challenge. We'll do it a better way, so it doesn't have that terrible color. So it all is listed alphabetically. So you can see they have quite an extensive, probably not by design. Finally, we have what we wanted. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this. Now I'm going to insert my section break. And I want to change my footer. So I'm going to insert a page break, a page number, down here below. Let's insert a page break. A page number. This time I want it to be Arabic numbering, and we want it to start at page 1 because it's the beginning of the report. Now let me go back and make sure that my original one, here's the original one. So now we're going to go into here and insert a page number. We're going to make sure that this is my Roman numerals. That took long enough, didn't it? Okay, so now we're all set. So now if we go through this report, here's the table of contents, the executive summary, and now my report starts on page 1. So section breaks allow you to create different footers and headers. Page breaks simply ensure that your text falls where it's supposed to. So that's the first thing. So now everything is right except for this table of contents. So by having a table of contents that is auto-generated, you can save yourself a lot of grief. But the only way you can do that is if you use headers. So either because you've created your own headers and you know what those names are, or because you're using the defaults. And then we're going to fix this Appendix A and B. So I'm just going to select this whole thing because it was there, but the numbers are wrong. So one thing that's a real flaw in Microsoft Word is that a table of contents doesn't automatically update as you're making edits. You actually have to generate the table of contents sometimes over and over again each time you make a substantive revision. I'm going to insert index and tables. I'm going to pick my table of contents, and then these are the defaults, heading 1, 2, and 3. So those are standard to Word. That's why it says from the template. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to replace what I've just selected. And now my executive summary is in the right place. I can fix this guy because he's an extra. So I'm just going to get rid of him. And then we're all set. So my executive summary is on page 3. My challenge is on page 1. Everything is now the way it's supposed to be. Your appendices do not need to be page numbered. So when you're auto-generating your table of contents, you probably don't want your appendices to be numbered. There's a couple of reasons for that, but as long as they're clearly labeled, you're in good shape. They do not have to be consecutively numbered. So now we have a paper that looks super cool. Okay, so let's save that for a second. I'm going to go back to Hangout and change my view. And now I'm going to go to Qualtrics because now we're going to generate our survey that's going to be appended to the report. So I have to go to Qualtrics and open it up. Give me a sec. And I'm just going to pick any old survey. It doesn't really matter. And then we'll screen share it. This looks like a good one, so let me get it up. And we'll be all set. And I'll bump it up so that when I screen share, you're going to be able to see it. Okay, here we go. So what I want to do is look at my Qualtrics survey. Okay, there we go. And the view that I want is not preview, but print. Print my survey. Now, some of your abilities to do some of these things are going to be dependent on how you have your own computer configured and how current your software is. But here's the print view of the survey. So sure, it's not quite as attractive as the original survey, and it's not done in sections. You can see that it all kind of runs together, but the page breaks will be natural. The only time this is not going to work is if you have a drop-down menu, because obviously in print, the software doesn't know how to handle the drop-down menu, and it would just appear as like a box. But it works for everything else. So I'm going to print, and on a Mac, what you do then is I want to print as PDF. I'm going to save it as PDF. And I'm not going to call it Qualtrics Survey Software. I'm going to call it the Neighborhood Watch Survey, so I would know what it is. Okay. And I'm going to change that up here too with my title. And I'm going to save it. So let it do its thing for a second. Okay. Now, I don't know that this is going to show up, so let me go back to Hangout and then show you what this looks like. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Neighborhood Watch survey in Adobe. Go back to my Hangout. So now we have a nice PDF version of the survey. And yes, it has the URL on it, but that's really okay. Now I've got this bumped up really high, so it feels probably a little distorted. If I do it at a more natural size, you would see that it page breaks quite naturally. So now I have a PDF version. That means you don't have to do JPEGs, you don't have to do some odd kind of thing with it. Let the survey software help you do what you need. Now again, if you can't generate a PDF, then we'll talk about options for how you might want to do this. Now the other thing that I tend to do then is go into Tools, because remember with software, with creating a PDF of a web page, it's going to, the way my computer is configured or my browsers, it always has a header, which is the URL and the application I was using. And I'm going to edit it so that it says Appendix A Survey. There are lots of different ways I could do this. I could, instead of doing it this way, I could just delete this and create my own by adding a text box. And then I could move that text box anywhere I wanted once I was done with it. So I could have it all lined up again. So there's lots of ways to do the labeling. You can even insert a cover, a spacer page in your report that just says Appendix A, again by creating a section break. So there's lots of different ways to do this. The goal, though, is to end up with an attractive package. Okay, so I'm going to save this, although it's probably not the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. Move it to a more appropriate place. You have to click right in it to make it movable. Sometimes I hit the wrong thing and can't quite get it to move. It is temperamental, I must say. You can change the font, all those different things. You can make it just about a text box do just about anything you want it to. Once you click out of it, I don't have the right touch today. Here we go, Appendix A. So I can have it all the way up here and it matches then my line. So let's save it and quit for right now. Now I'm going to go back to my Word document. I'll probably have to go back to Hangout. Stop sharing, but let me go to the survey. I mean, sorry, the report. Now I'm going to save this as Same kind of thing. So you hit print, create the PDF, and I'm going to call it Neighborhood Watch Report. Now I have two separate documents. So now I have, an issue to deal with. What am I going to do now? How am I going to knit those two things together? And to do that, here's how you do it. So let me go to pull up my Neighborhood Watch document. So we're going to go to the desktop and we'll see what happens here. If that, well, I'll probably have to do it the other way because this is Hangout and not what I'd like it to be. So let's go to our first Adobe document, which is our Neighborhood Watch file, now saved as PDF. Okay. So now you see that. Yep, that's the one that shows up. Good. So to knit these together, you can say you want to create, and under that you want to combine files into a single PDF. And then Adobe allows you to drag and drop your files. So here's the survey, and then I'd have to find my, where's my other one? My survey software. Oh, my report, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, hang on just a sec. I'll grab that. Okay, so now I'm going to go get that one. And it's right here. And you can change the order. So clearly I don't want my survey to be behind my report. So I just click this, highlight it, so that it shows up and I can move it up. Now it's in the right order. I say combine those files, and I get something called binder. If I went through my whole report, now I would see my survey that now says Appendix A. And it would be one beautiful document. But you can't keep it as that name, so you have to save it. So usually then I save it as a new name. So now it's Neighborhood Watch Report Final, and we're all set. So let me go back to something that was in my team's original report, so you can see the difference of what happens between making a nice smooth PDF and then kind of a bunch of JPEGs, because I think it can be confusing to do it that way. So let's go back to this, and I'm going to go back to their regular report and screen share it. Original report, the one that we just changed the page numbers on. So at the very bottom, they did screenshots. And you can see that it kind of, it'll work, but it's awkward. It takes up a ton of room because these are all pictures. Pictures always take up more room than text. So it's probably not the most expedient way to display your survey. Best that you go ahead and create it from the print version of that survey, make a PDF of it, and really think about how it'll read and readability. They also did, in this particular report, they did their data So same kind of thing, as opposed to making these all different images that take up a ton of room, you can come up with a different schema via PDF in order to create something that's really easy to knit together with the rest of your report. Okay, let me go back to Hangout and see what kind of questions you might have. You can use the chat. A Hangout will allow up to 10 people to talk, so you could talk as well, but it's up to you. Questions you might have. It's a pretty simple process. It works pretty well. Things. So you want your report to have kind of the best look possible. So to do that, the things we covered today is to have really clear footers. You want to distinguish your front matter, which is your cover page, your executive summary, your table of contents, from the body of your report, which then begins on page 1. The very first section is page 1. So you're paginating, you're creating a clear footer, and then you're appending, you're creating a PDF version of your report, and you're going to append whatever's appropriate for your report to help me see the details. Combining those files into a mega PDF file, which is still less, in terms of space, less space cost-wise than if you had a lot of JPEGs in your stuff. And that'll upload pretty nicely to Blackboard without much trouble. I am looking at the size of this file, and the report and the survey is only 5.1 megabytes, so you can see that it's not a huge kind of thing. So that's good. So it's easy to do. And then again, that can be uploaded straight to Blackboard. Microsoft offers a variety of strategies for learning how to create style sheets. So let me go back to the Word document for just a sec. There I am. And go back up to what you can probably, very tiny because it shows up really small. So you can create all kinds of style sheets. So when I did a lot of consulting, different people that I worked for, different groups or different organizations, had their own templates, if you will, for how I was to deliver work. And so it was very important to follow the style sheet, because then a professional typesetter, if you will, a professional who did nothing but this kind of page layout, would be able to import my stuff in Word, because the styles would then transfer. So if you don't ever use styles, if everything says body text or normal, you can't do that kind of thing. So if you have a special formatting, you have to attach a name to that formatting so that you can repetitively go back to it, and all of the parameters of that particular style will show up every time you select it. It might be indented, it might be bold-faced, it might be underscored, it might be a different font, it could be a table, it could be a grid, it could be all kinds of things. You can create a style with just about anything. The idea with a style is you can repetitively go back to it over and over again without having to do a lot of reformatting. It can have a default font. It can have a default font size. So Word offers a number of tutorials specific to the version of Office or Word that you're using. So I think on the Windows side we have Word 13 already. And of course I'm not on the Windows side, so I'm not using that. And so there's one for that. There's one for Office, different versions of Office. So because these things do update, you obviously want to use the tutorial in Microsoft that's appropriate to the version of the software you're using. People who write very sophisticated kind of documents couldn't live without this kind of stuff, because, again, they do this all the time and they have to have something to make it happen. Now, I'm not sure why my team's style sheet is so huge, because my own personal one is way smaller than that. Because you can see the longer this list is, the harder it is to find the specific thing you're looking for. You have to have a good sense of what you've named these things, or you'll never find it again. Heading 1, 2, and 3, all those headings are defaults, and they appear in any normal template that you set up in Word. So if you don't want to have a special name for them, then heading 1, 2, and 3 will work. So it's very easy to do. Again, it's the table of contents is by inserting index and tables. Okay. The other thing that might not have been apparent in this menu, in this dialog box, which I can't unfortunately make bigger, but there's something here called a tab leader. So it's what connects the statement in your table of contents with the page number. So the page number by default is right aligned, and you want it to show the page numbers, but this is the thing that connects that statement and the number. So none never works because the eye can't find it. The lines are just kind of obnoxious, so you want to pick the dots, and then they'll automatically display. And again, where it said options, if you had your own style sheet, you could pick those things. You can see that it allows you, it picks up everything that's kind of in your style sheet and thinks that that's what you want to do. And you can pick it. And then modify. Again, you can change some things around if you want to, but I never change things once I get them in. Okay. So it looks pretty cool, and it's really, really easy to do. And then it comes in